actually not appeared on this court's calendar until yesterday. Apparently there was some sort of clerk's miscalendaring, and I don't know how or why that happened. But and I'm looking for my paperwork. I was informed yesterday this matter was added onto the court's calendar. So I took the opportunity to review the summons and the complaint and Mr. Eisenberg's answer. And this matter is on for a PRA scheduling conference. So are there any particular issues the court should be aware of in regards to scheduling this case, Mr. Eisenberg?
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe that based on our discussion, the parties anticipate that we will need to have a full motion, like a summary judgment motion hearing on the question of liability. And then if Mr. Thomas prevails on that, then of course we would need a hearing on the subject of penalty. With regard to issues the court should be aware of, Mr. Thomas has requested some discovery, and I'll be providing that to him today. Lewis County still needs a little bit of time to marshal its own evidence in support of its position in summary judgment. And so Lewis County's request is that we schedule that summary judgment hearing on the issue of liability sometime at the end of January or in early February, because then the briefing on that matter could be submitted either shortly before the winter holiday or shortly after it, depending upon when the court sets the hearing. And that would give Lewis County time to make sure that it has gathered its evidence and provided it to Mr. Thomas.
Thank you. And as you both may or may not know, Thurston County, as we hear many public records cases, these matters are set for merit hearings. If the parties want to set a summary judgment motion, the parties can do that. But what the court generally does at this stage of the proceeding is set a merits hearing where the court would conduct a hearing to determine whether or not a violation had been shown. If there was a violation shown, there would be a separate penalties hearing that would be set. And so the court uses these scheduling conferences as an opportunity to see where the court can provide assistance to the parties in areas such as discovery, or determines whether the parties are requesting for in-camera review, or any other issues that are potentially problematic that would require the court to in some way give some guidance to the parties. So, Mr. Thomas, what do you think regarding the discovery request that Mr. Eisenberg told the court about?
Your Honor, Mr. Eisenberg is going to deliver plaintiff's discovery after this hearing. And so then we'll have a chance to go through and look to see if we have any concerns or any objections to the discovery. We haven't looked at it yet, so we don't know. It sounds like that there is a substantial amount of discovery being provided, so I hope that we don't have any problems. Insofar as defendants' discovery to plaintiffs, they haven't, as Mr. Eisenberg said, they haven't provided that yet, so I don't know if we will have any problems with that discovery or not yet.
Well, the court would tell you that normally what would happen is I would go ahead and offer you some dates for the merits hearing. Were you in agreement with Mr. Eisenberg's thought of this being best heard in January or February?
Yes, we would agree to January. We would prefer as soon as possible, so January would be more preferable to February, but we would agree to January.
Well, the court would have availability for a merits hearing on January 12th at 9 a.m. Would that be an acceptable date for both of you?
That would be acceptable to Lewis County. Thank you, sir.
I believe that would be acceptable to the plaintiffs too, Your Honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, then a briefing schedule, and what I would ask is if one of you would take responsibility for drafting an order that lays out the date for the merits hearing and the briefing schedule. And that can be, if you can do that today, I'd be happy to sign it. If you can't, but you can reach agreement, you could avail yourselves of the court's ex parte process. And if for some reason that did not work, you could certainly note it for presentation. But the briefing schedule would be filing and service of petitioner's brief would be December 15th. The filing and service of the respondent's brief would be January 1st. And the filing and service of the petitioner's reply brief, if any, would be January 8th. Do the parties have any questions?
I don't have any, the plaintiffs do not have any questions, Your Honor.
I don't have any questions either. I do think that, in light of Your Honor having brought it up, I can say I think it's unlikely that we'll be asking for any in-camera review in this matter, because there isn't a large body of documents claimed to be exempt that we'd be asking you to review. I think the issue is going to be whether the response violated the PRA or not.
Plaintiffs would agree. We believe the central issue is whether or not there was an adequate response in this issue.
Very good. Well, those will be the dates. We'll have the merit hearing on January 12th, as I indicated. If you both would put together an order that captures all of that. The January 12th date, just so you both can correctly include this in the order, that will be on the dispositive motion calendar. And that's important because generally those are capped at 2 per a 9 o'clock hearing. So I want to make sure that you get captured in there and it does not get rejected by the clerk's office. And then I guess the only other thing I would tell you both is if it appears that there becomes an issue that you don't perceive right now, but regarding discovery, if something goes haywire, my suggestion would be to note that up and let the court weigh in as soon as possible so we can try to keep those dates and move this matter efficiently. And so with that, unless either of you have any questions, that'll be all for today, and I'll sign an order that's consistent with my oral order when it's presented.
Your Honor, I believe, do they have templates for that order available downstairs in the Superior Court Administrator's office?
I believe they do. I believe they have one that you would be able to adapt. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Your
day.
Honor.
You're welcome.